fascinating macroeconomic time of our era. I think we're living through a monetary regime change. I'd be shocked if the dollar, the current iteration of the dollar as a world reserve currency, were to remain. So I do find this administration's support for Bitcoin to be very interestingly timed. And then now we're in trade wars and what's going on with China. I think it is as cool a time to be working on Bitcoin as I've ever seen in my 13 years.
So we used to be the crazy people when we talked about that monetary shift and Bitcoin becoming the global reserve currency. And a few months ago, Larry Fink, the CEO of the largest asset manager in the world, said if the dollar continues in its path, it will hyperinflate, our debt will explode, and Bitcoin will become the global reserve currency.
Yeah, our new CMO.
I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you make of people like that now seemingly understanding? I think a lot of people were skeptical of the BlackRocks of the world coming in. When you hear someone like him talk, it sounds like he's legitimately orange-pilled.
Well, for me, it's February, January even of 2021. They wanted to it wasn't only about Bitcoin. It was, let's be tough on crime. Let's be clean. What are innovative policies that would invite, El Salvador is never the home of Google engineers, MIT professors, the most brilliant financial minds in Wall Street. It never attracted that level of talent. And it was, how can we become a beautifully aesthetic place for humanity to prosper and turn our story around? And Bitcoin became a core nucleus of that, because guess what? If you buy Bitcoin and you become a Bitcoiner, it's an open network. You're all of a sudden on Michael Saylor's team. You're on Larry Fink's team. You're on Jack Dorsey's team. Now you're on President Trump's team. And El Salvador got that early, and they understood, lean into the network effects and the economy scale of an open network that is all empowering to all of us that buy into it. And it's paid dividends. I mean, I think their Bitcoin treasury is almost worth $1 billion. They've been able to renegotiate deals with the IMF they would have never in a million years. I mean, they're, forgiving that luxury is something that no central bank or government is interested in doing. So El Salvador was unique in that they could not print their own money. They were using the US dollar. They were looking for new life, a way to build a better future. And Bitcoin was a bit more natural because they didn't have to forgive the superpower of printing time and energy. Argentina, going through austerity, all sorts of terrible times, but they get to print money. They get to print money and they get to use the military and force and jail time and the courts and judicial system to force you to use it. And that is a superpower. And so I've actually thought, I kid you not, after El Salvador, to me what made most sense was eventually America, because America is prided on being technologically forward. I mean, what we did with the internet is astounding and pioneered open communication globally. All of the internet powerhouses were founded in the United States a little bit, but I do think the next iteration of that is the world reserve currency issuer is destined to have really catastrophic problems. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are, it's a function of policy and how the system is designed. And so very naturally, reserve assets are going to become appealing at a rapid rate. And so I think it makes all the sense in the world that the United States has stumbled into the position they're in now, which is, hey, this world reserve currency status thing, this sucks. And this Bitcoin thing's pretty cool. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Bitcoin thing's pretty cool, obviously, and we're seeing major institutional adoption as a result of that, and you're leading in that arena.
Staying humble and stacking sats.
Right,
man.
So obviously, everybody's seen what Saylor's done. You guys were second, right, to say we're going to be a Bitcoin treasury company, obviously with 21. I think what was so impactful about that announcement, obviously, was the partners that were a part of it.
Yeah.
Cantor Fitzgerald, Tether.
Practically cannot make any more of it, which makes it the safest place for me to store my work. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I think at 21, one of the reasons I co-founded it with Tether. I've known these guys forever. We've been in Bitcoin for, both of us, a long time, way over 10 years. This isn't a pivot from some other operating business.
No.
We didn't get into Bitcoin recently. This isn't anything to do with the White House or the administration. These are Bitcoiners that thought there was not a hole in the market, but we thought Bitcoin could be represented in a way that we were interested in, and we saw demand from folks like SoftBank. And so we think we're very different, which I can explain, but it doesn't surprise me that the capital markets has a great appetite for Bitcoin.
Go ahead and explain. I would love to hear the nuance.
I think, Tether and I would say, fourthly, is such a big balance sheet filled with Bitcoin. And Paulo and I, before we were CEOs, we were technologists. Like, we both were engineers. And so over the last few years, we were like, man, for the smaller companies that are doing maybe innovative, product building things, a SoftBank can't write them $1 billion check. This market cap's $100 million.
Right.
And for MicroStrategy, we're very interested in building financial services and extending the treasury story beyond just buying Bitcoin. And so that's where, our tagline, when I was on Wall Street pitching the product, it's, we want to bring blue chip credibility with startup upside to the capital market. SoftBank wasn't a founding partner. They're actually a first outside investor. And that was what was attractive to them, is blue chip credibility. I mean, Tether's the most profitable per employee company in the history of mankind, the most successful business running today. We're very credible. Our background, what we've been able to, real balance sheet, they need real growth. Well, Bitcoin's compounding at 60% a year. And if you add a little bit of leverage to it, and you add cash flow generating products, and you add a little bit of Tether and a little bit of Strike, that's a very powerful equity in a world that's reorchestrating capital flows. And so when we go to fixed income market and say, hey, the conversations I'm having on Wall Street is these guys are like, hey, Jack, don't tell my boss I said this, but the 60-40 portfolio, dead. So here, check this out. I just modeled out the 55-5-40 or the 60-35-5. Help me understand where the alpha is. And I say, cool. And I order up over $500 million of cash in a week on Wall Street, boom. And that's where the demand is coming from, is because we, American exceptionalism was largely funded by foreign trading partners' trade surplus. And so all of these, tech stocks can't go down, real estate gets a perpetual bid. I mean, that's gonna be questions. We're gonna see capital rotation. I think Bitcoin's a great place for that capital, and we think we've been in Bitcoin a very long time. We've built lots of successful businesses, and we know exactly what we're doing. I've lived through many cycles. I missed one halving. I was not there for the 2020.
Yeah, you were like 3.
No, not quite. But I missed the first halving. Every other halving I was there. So I've lived through these cycles, and so we feel prepared. And yeah, listen, it's a free market. And if there's a lot of impatient, irresponsible capital that needs a better home, I got plenty of space. So.
I believe it. So what's exciting you the most? I mean, we're kind of like running out of time, obviously, but outside of the things that we've discussed, as you see this sort of Goldilocks moment, as we talked about, which I think will be continuing, what's the most exciting thing you're seeing in the Bitcoin space?
I think for both 21 and Strike, separate businesses, shout out my lawyers, shout out the SEC, separate companies. What I think is interesting to us is focusing on utility. With the rock there, it'll serve the same purpose. And so same thing with Bitcoiners, right, is that we all have amassed this wealth and this hard, scarce asset, but you need a house to live in, you need food to buy, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to travel. And the fact that we haven't had credible utility built on top of the asset class to allow you to get liquidity out of the asset, responsibly borrow against it, credit markets, different financial services and innovation that's a necessity to solve the hodler's dilemma, to solve this problem for this new wealth class that's worth over $2 trillion. And so I think both my businesses independently are focused not on other cryptos, not on further speculation, but on making the asset more useful and allowing you to actually allow it to change your life more. And that's what I think is coming and what excites me outside of, both companies buy a lot of Bitcoin. We're excited about the price too.
So what company?
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the video.